In the early 1960s, the Ford Motor Company was a giant in a midlife crisis, producing reliable but boring machines for a generation that wanted speed. So Lee Iacocca convinced a reluctant Henry Ford II that if they couldn't build soul, they should buy it, leading them across the Atlantic to the gates of Ferrari, where the legendary Enzo Ferrari waited with a smirk. The deal seemed done until Enzo realized Ford wanted to control his racing budget, the very heart of the Scuderia, prompting him to unleash a volley of insults that called Ford's cars ugly and his factory big but stupid, and Henry Ford II, fueled by a multi-million-dollar grudge, gave the order to build a car that would bury Ferrari at the 24 Hours of Le Mans. To do the impossible, they turned to Carroll Shelby, a fast-talking Texan who had won Le Mans himself before a heart condition forced him into the business of building Cobras. And Shelby knew that to win, he didn't just need a car, he needed a pure racer, which brought him to Ken Miles, a brilliant, hot-tempered British mechanic who lived for the perfect lap and didn't care much for corporate handshakes. Together, they took the initial, unstable Ford GT40 and began a grueling process of trial and error of some baked air fills, fighting not just the laws of physics, but the interference of Ford executives like L.A.B, who viewed Miles as a PR liability rather than the mechanical genius he was. Le Mans approached. The pressure reached a boiling point, with Shelby famously locking BB in the office just to give Henry Ford II a terrifying high-speed ride that proved only Ken Miles could tame the beast they have created. On the rain-slick circuit de la Sarthe, the world watched as the Ford Steamroller faced off against Ferrari's precision-engineered prototypes, and despite a faulty door that wouldn't close on first lap, Miles drove like a man possessed, pushing the engine past the red line and shattering lap records until the Ferraris began to crumble under the relentless American pace. Ford held the top 3 positions, but the corporate suits wanted a marketing miracle, a 3-car photo finish, and they pressured Shelby to make Miles slow down so the other Fords could catch up. Miles, who had everything right to claim the Triple Crown of racing after winning Daytona and Sebring the same year, looked at his friend Shelby, saw the conflict in his eyes, and chose to be a team player, lifting his foot off the gas and crossing the line in a synchronized formation that looked perfect for the cameras. But the victory was snatched away by a technicality, because the second Ford, driven by Bruce McLaren, had started further back on the grid. It had technically traveled a greater distance, and Miles was relegated to second place in the very race he had dominated. The tragedy didn't end on podium. Just months later, while testing an experimental J car at Riverside, a mechanical failure sent Miles off the track at 200 miles, ending the life of a man who had done more than anyone to put Ford on top. Shelby was left with a win that felt like a loss, a wrench on his hand, and the memory of a friend who knew that out there on the track at 7,000 RPM, everything else, the politics, the money, the ego, simply fades away. Thank you for watching, and make like and subscribe to this channel.